Hey peeps. Well, yeah, surprise, surprise, it's me again. Yeah, I wasn't doing a movie last week, which, I know more often than not seems to be the case these days. That's just kind of a temporary setback. Over the next week, I'm hoping to tape a bunch of these, and so I'll pretty much have them going on a regular basis again. I was just kind of checking kind of what I had going on the streaming and whatnot as far as any of that goes, because you know give me convenience or give me death. All right. Anyway, the one I was really looking to maybe check out was Night Moves with Gene Hackman, and I was kind of really wanting to see that. That was on Tubi last time I looked, and man, you can't sleep on these things because yeah, it's gone already, and it's I think they're charging money to look at it on Amazon Prime, which I'm willing to do, but only on occasion. Just being the cheap bastard that I am. And, just kind of disgruntled about that. But I was looking for one. I was trying to think of one that I could bang out quick and easy. And, it's one I've seen a lot. And so, yeah, I'm going for American Psycho. And this is going to be one of those movie versus book kind of compare contrast sorts of things, and as a person who went out to see this movie when it came out, and I was a fan of the book back shortly after it was released too. And I remember the release of American Psycho, the novel, by Bret Easton Ellis, and this thing came out with so much hype behind it when it came out, and just I forget which publisher it was that doled out the big bucks for this book, but when it came out, it was absolutely lambasted, and everyone was talking about, oh, blah blah blah. It was talking about how horrific it was, and offensive it was, and violent it was, and everything else, and then later on, you had a lot of bunch of folks saying like, "Oh well, now we know that there was nothing to be afraid about. It's just a bad book." And what I found out in the '90s, as that hubbub died down, and all the uppity types kind of shut their mouths and went on with their next business, such as it was that it picked up a cult following anyway, and as well it should have. And kind of I saw that starting to steamroll further and further as I went on through my years doing zines. It was like people were suddenly picking up American Psycho, and they were kind of all about it. And a lot of the younger folks I knew were picking it up, and they were all about it, which is great because I thought it was a great book. Um, and a lot of that, I don't know, I blame kind of a lot of just bullshit political correctness in that. There's a certain strain of intellectual thinking or, elite thinking, which, uh, particularly in a lot of academic circles, it's suddenly like, well, it depicts misogyny, so it's misogynistic material, or it depicts racism, ergo it's racist, etc. Yeah, what fucking bullshit. And yeah, obviously, I'm not a big fan of misogyny or racism, but you know, that kind of thinking is just so grade school, and it's just so submoronic in my opinion, and just kind of a subject to just PC PC analysis, political correctness. And later on, they started this, they kind of reframed it as to quote unquote woke, although mostly. I don't know, that to me is an insult to like the original meaning that that word carried back in the early 20th century, and the folks that were advancing that kind of thinking, who, is mainly a case of, yeah, hey, look around you and make sure, take a look and make sure you realize how the man is screwing you over. And it's, yeah, well, that wasn't wrong, and it's still not wrong. But, people have obviously, on either side, have kind of repurposed that in bad ways. Uh, okay, off my soapbox. So, American Psycho, yeah, just to rephrase, yeah, when I went to see the movie with Christian Bale, back in 2000, I was, it was an afternoon showing, and I caught it, just midday. There were maybe 4 or 5 people in the whole theater. Two people in the theater besides me, sitting up ahead of me, were a mother and daughter, and they were watching it for a while, and after X amount of minutes, the mother turns to the daughter and says, "Okay, so I'm guessing this is a comedy." And I'm not sure whether she kept that opinion, but it was pretty perceptive thinking, I think. American Psycho, whether it's the book or the movie, is a terrific satire on the 80s, the grab everything you can get mentality, the yuppie culture, etc. And and I don't think it's too off of what we see coming in now. So I think it's super relevant, and Patrick Bateman is a great character as far as creating kind of like this mega capitalist monster. And he's taught in a lot of ways. It's kind of like the ultimate. That came out in '89. It was really kind of like the ultimate picture of. It was almost like Bret Easton Ellis' kind of eulogy to the Reagan '80s, and of course that kind of prevalent look at politics and market forces and everything else prevailed through the early '90s, and gave way to neoliberalism, which is really just kind of a highly financed shark with a lot of mealy mouth propositioning, but whatever. Let's get off politics for a bit. So the main crux, of course, is Patrick Bateman, and what a lot of folks who watch the movie, who maybe, just great movie, barrel of laughs, Christian Bale is terrific as kind of like this bloodless psycho who's just absolutely irredeemable and bad, and is kind of a just vicious, cruel character who just kind of typifies, kind of the Reagan era mentality. And boy, the novel is just brilliantly savage. What a lot of people who watch the movie may not pick up on is just a lot of the jokes that kind of drop in the movie kind of play out 10 times bigger in the book. The book is, you get, and the movie, I don't want to stop praising that. I mean, yeah, despite what a lot of the PC or woke feminist types may say, I mean, that movie was written and co-written or directed. Bleep bleep bleep. That's all, folks. Directed and co-written with Guinevere Turner by Mary Harron, and two two women who pretty much saw the material exactly as it was, and I think played it out right. Now there are a lot of differences. I mean, the absolute gruesomeness and just graphicness of the book is definitely played down in the movie, and it should be. I kind of thought, and a lot of us kind of thought that American Psycho was like the unmovieable book, in same way, much the same way, maybe not as extreme, but in much the same way as something like Naked Lunch would be. Uh, they did a damn fine job, let me tell you. Yeah, they play down the gore, and they should have, because people would be throwing up in the aisles. Um, but a lot of the humor, a lot of the comedy in there, a lot of the satire is absolutely there. A lot of people who might think it's so weird, though, little non sequiturs he's going on about Huey Lewis and the News or Whitney Houston and whatnot. Um, just hilarious, just those moments do actually exist in the book, and they exist as their own, just their own isolated chapters. Yes, there is a chapter on Huey Lewis and the News. There's a chapter on Phil Collins, I think. There's a chapter on Phil Collins or Genesis. Probably Phil Collins. There's a chapter on Whitney Houston, and it, in a way, Ellis kind of paints a beautiful picture of exactly how sterile and plastic Patrick Bateman's perceptions and existence are. I mean, talks about, they take him, I think, to a U2 concert at one point. He talks about how he hates live music. And yeah, he likes it very canned and predictable. There's one point in the Whitney Houston story, I think, where it goes into this whole thing about her, her ace in the hole being Narada Michael Walden, who is like, quote unquote, one of the best drum programmers in the business, which is hilarious when you think he's one of the best producers or engineers in the business. He I think has a history of being a brilliant percussionist. And yeah, you're gonna say a drum programmer. A drum programmer, you shitting me. Anyway, but the whole mentality is like that, and it goes way further and way longer. There are just laundry lists of like all the superficial kind of materialistic things. He's just got like laundry lists of all the watches and all the just accessories people are wearing that matter to him, and of course it comes down, and all the ones he wants, and it comes down to, of course, the famous bit with the business cards, and if you've seen the movie, and a lot of people, but yeah, super gory, super gruesome. And another mentality, I went off on the PC folks a minute ago. A lot of people are just like, oh, I hear it's really gross. I hear it's really disturbing. I hate that shit. I admire good effects in a movie when they're done, and if they make it kind of claw at your seat, that's pretty good. But it's just like I don't watch movies for that. I don't. Oh, this one's going to be gross. I hear. Oh, I gotta see it now. Jesus Christ! I want to see a movie to be stimulated or entertained, or just see something cool. But I'm not a gore centric viewer or reader or anything else. There's got to be something beyond that, American Psycho's kind of got that in spades. It kind of tells you a lot in a very creepy, gruesome story about kind of the 80s story that permeated Wall Street and high society and the jet set and whatnot back in the 80s. And, well, it still does, but, you know, they kind of play it down a little more. But another thing, a lot of folks, where I walked away with a certain mentality after reading the book that a lot of people may not have walked away with if they saw the movie. And in fact, I've kind of had conversations with people. I've heard, you know, what sometimes some of those kids who do the reactor videos and the way they like, whoa, what did I just watch? And, you know, just a lot of the things, it's just, oh, so it's all in his head. It's all an imaginary thing, right? And I never walked away with that mentality. I always walked away with the fact that, yeah, he comes more and more unwound as the book goes, and the further the book goes, the more he seems like he's coming unglued and he's imagining things. And they've got the whole thing where the automatic teller tells him, you know, feed me a cat, and and toward the end, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of thing where he's stumbling down the street and freaking out, and he thinks that the park bench has gotten up and is chasing him. And boy, whether they would have been able to film that, well, they probably could. You know, well, no, we're not going to go there. But yeah, this guy's not holding it together. But there's a whole mentality of, you know, did he kill Paul Allen with the axe? Yeah, I believe he did. Thing is, it's like, wait, but he talked to him. Yeah, but they set it up. I mean, they go way more into it in the book than they do into the movie, but it's like, if you listen to the beginning, not only is he mistaking someone for someone else, and this and that person for someone else, and I think this is some person, and then I realize it's that person, but everybody else is doing that, because they're all so cookie cutter, they all look alike. I mean, he's sitting there listing off the Bill Blass suits and the tortoiseshell glasses and all these accessories they're all wearing, and they're all wearing the same stuff. And, they're saying they're fashion checking each other. And Paul Allen keeps mistaking Patrick Bateman for Marcus Halberstram, and there are all kinds of little hints like that going through it. And so when he meets with his lawyer, quote unquote, he's mistaking him for someone other than who he is. None of these people can tell each other apart. And that's just the culture they've created on Wall Street. Now, the other thing is, he sits back at his table and is all jovial with his buddies, but it's just like, yeah, but there's nothing to be jovial about. And it's like, realistically, break it down. How many of these people could be an American Psycho? Maybe they're all psychos. And with the kind of mentality building up on Wall Street and all that, hello, presto. Is that not conceivable? Yeah, kind of. Now, I think that was kind of what Bret Easton Ellis was kind of getting at with that was do you not think they're fostering a completely psychopathic mentality? And yeah, you know, every damn one of these people could be Patrick Bateman. And, you know, just Christian Bale, great as Patrick Bateman, and maybe something to look at in the future. I mean, you look in Washington, D.C. these days, that guy in Washington, D.C. right now, big scary cartoon, big silly cartoon man, and wow, how far apart is he from Patrick Bateman? Pleasant dreams.